Fuck, marry, kill, hot, smart, rich.
Ooh, that's a really good one that no one's asked me.
Hot tip for instant confidence.
Okay. Women control 85% of consumer spend. Why are we not at the decision tree of where money is flowing in this economy? My first boss ever at Salesforce literally said, if you don't change the inflection in your voice or the way that you present yourself, you will never be taken seriously here.
You heard about Alix Earle getting equity in the Poppi deal.
This is going to become how most creators build generational wealth.
That's really good advice for any sugar babies out there too. If you really want to be smart about it, you're buying jewelry, you're buying Hermes, you're buying Chanel. I want to talk about the relationship. We're rolling, right?
Yeah. Are we rolling?
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. It's the best. It's very inspiring. And I feel like you broke off your engagement around the same time that I got divorced. And I remember seeing your content and I was like, okay, there's somebody else like going through this in very different ways. But I want to start with some, let's see, lightning round, this or that. I'm new to flashcards, or not flashcards.
Is it at a lot of pressure?
It's just, I'm so used to doing it on my iPad or my phone.
Yeah.
Because I have a flow.
Okay.
And this, I'm like, I don't know where things are. So I was just saying, I need a branded like iPad cover.
Yeah.
That's the solution. You would think like 7 years into this.
Has it been 7 years you've been doing it?
In April.
Oh my God, congrats. And you rebranded when?
Rebranded September 2024. So last fall.
Yeah, it's like fresh. I remember it being like, oh my gosh, this is new. I love it.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. It's hard. It's like, you know, anything, doing it for so long. How do you stay relevant? How do you iterate? How do you evolve? So it's balancing that.
Well, I think also it's interesting because podcasting's become so relevant recently, but 7 years ago, it was still so new and like no one took it seriously as a job. But even being in myself now, not just guesting, you realize like how many things have to go right for an episode to do well. And that is something that I don't think people, everyone's like, I'm just gonna start a podcast. And I'm like, you know how hard it is to actually do a podcast well? It is like a full business, like running a startup.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I feel like when I started back then, I think there were a few 100,000 podcasts, but of those, the ones that were active and the ones that were charting, I mean, it was such a small group. And so it was a lot easier to kind of be on the top.
The one thing I will say to give you your flowers is obviously, I'm sure we'll talk about this. I'm an investor in a lot of brands, and the highest performing podcast that one of the brands has ever done in like the 5 years, and actually one of the highest performing marketing assets in general was your podcast. They still convert a few people a month from that episode that was filmed like 3 years ago.
No way.
So that's crazy. So you might have like one of the most die-hard wellness audiences I've ever met.
Thank you.
So I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I mean, we see that reflected with ads and retention with my sponsors and all of that. All of that is amazing. But okay, so let's get into the kind of quick lightning round, this or that. First, I wanted to ask you, marry, kill, hot, smart, rich.
Ooh, that's a really good one that no one's asked me. Marry, kill. Marry smart, for sure, because looks fade, intelligence stays forever. Rich, because that would just be a really fun date, like Mr. Grey vibes in the helicopter. And date hot. Good to look at for a period of time.
I love it.
I all of a sudden like went to the men of like who I would marry, kill, but even for myself, same thing.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you. Okay, date the billionaire or be the billionaire?
Be the billionaire.
Soft life or power couple grind?
So my husband and I actually call ourselves a purpose couple. We're really anti the power couple. Everything we do, we measure in like how much purpose and impact can we make. So immediately I was like, no to the power couple. But what was the first option?
Soft life.
I think I do both. Like I think I have purpose and I lived a very soft life.
I love that. Prenup or pure trust?
Prenup.
We'll talk about that too. That's like one of my favorite topics, by the way.
Yeah,
people have such a misconception about what it actually is. And I know that you've done episodes on this. Rich in time or rich in cash?
That's a really tough one because I think the more stability you have to buy your basic needs, the more you can enjoy your time. So I would say, of course, now it would be time, but I love what I do. I love purpose. And I think when you do that, cash comes. So I don't know if I could choose that one. I feel like both.
I think of that saying, it's so cliche, but like when you're young, you trade time for money. And when you're old, you trade money for time.
Well, and it's interesting. So even for myself with the business now, I value my equity of my company so much more than I value someone's salary. Like I would way rather negotiate with cash than I would with giving a piece of equity of my company because it's so much more valuable to me. But when I was starting out, I was like, someone just like come and help and I'll give you equity for this. But now that has become the most finite resource in addition to time. So I guess time if I had to pick, but definitely both.
You're so analytical. I love it. High risk, high reward, or slow, steady growth?
Okay. As it comes to financial, definitely high risk, high reward. As it comes to building a business, slow, steady growth. And they're very different, which we can get into later.
Okay. We'll bookmark that.
Okay.
Last one, money or freedom?
Freedom.
Interesting.
I think money buys you freedom.
Yeah. I agree. Okay. So hot, smart, rich. For anybody who's not familiar with you, talk about the evolution of this and where it even started.
Yeah. Wow. It's been a while since I did like an origin story, but I think it goes back to being young and like every founder solving a real problem is solving it for themselves. And it's something I faced a lot growing up in the corporate world. I always felt like I had to choose my feminine, energetic, bubbly self from hiding that to be taken seriously in the workforce. And I will never forget my first boss ever at Salesforce literally pulled me into a one-on-one meeting and said, if you don't change the inflection in your voice or the way that you present yourself, you will never be taken seriously here. And for so long, I have molded into a different version of myself to try to fit in or follow what I thought looked like success. I feel like people going into the workforce out of college don't even know how many opportunities and career paths you can take. There's a very specific way to live your life, as they tell us. And that's what I was doing and that's what I was on. And I felt so suffocated. Like I genuinely felt like I had to leave myself at the door every single time I left my house to go to work that morning. And over time, it was like, 1,000 paper cuts, like cuts really deep. It was a problem that I was like, I have to be able to fix this. I started seeing all of these celebrity brands getting built. And we would idolize these women like Hailey Bieber or Kim Kardashian who could be fully authentically themselves and build billion-dollar companies. And I was like, why is the average person not able to do that? Why am I being typecasted to a stereotype based on the way that I talk, the interests and hobbies that I have outside of work? And then I started looking at the math and the numbers and market sizing, and I was like, women control 85% of consumer spend. We are the ones that like buy the diapers, buy the groceries, buy the beauty products, buy the clothing. Why are we not at the decision tree of where money is flowing in this economy? And then I started looking at the fact that female founders get 2% of venture dollars, and this math wasn't mathing for me. And I was like, I wonder if I can build a platform, a movement. I didn't even know it was going to be a company, but I knew I didn't want to become known as like Maggie Sellers. I wanted to become the hot, smart, rich girl, which I feel like most people don't even know my name. They know hot, smart, rich.
Yeah.
And now
That's
they're
good.
starting to know me. And I'm like, it was truly a movement of being like, I wonder if I can change perception by branding this as a media company from the day I started. So like, I remember setting up the accounts for Hot Smart Rich, even though they were idle, the same day I started setting up TikTok accounts for Maggie Sellers. And that was always the intention. And now it's grown into like, obviously a movement. I feel like people come up to me being like, I'm living such a hot, smart, rich life because of you. But now it's really becoming a real media company where we have resources and a platform for people to actually learn and feel like they are leaving our content understanding something that they didn't know before in a very approachable way. And it's just so exciting.
It's amazing what you're doing. I've learned so much from you. And I mean, I love it because it's just, you're completely breaking down stereotypes and cliches. I'm curious for you, which pillar do you feel like you embodied first? Hot, smart, or rich?
So it's funny, like when people try to take away the pillars from one another, I'm like, it's an essence. It's all of them, because that's the problem I was solving for. Where like on the weekdays, maybe I thought I was like super hot going out, but then I had to leave that all at work when I was going into work. And so I think like, I don't know if I necessarily know which one I identified with first, but I always fundamentally believe, and I do this with a daily practice of these HSR love notes that I do. Publicly, I talk about like all of the affirmations that I want, and they kind of cover all of the pillars. I have fundamentally always believed I was going to be successful. I knew there was going to be struggle in that. I knew it wasn't going to be easy. But even in the really low moments, I would honestly think to myself, like, this is a part of your story. Without struggle, there is no story. You have to go through this. You can't just get through things. You literally have to go through them. And so like, even in my lowest of lows, whether it was calling off an engagement or being rejected from my dream job, like I was rejected from Shopify 11 times. And now to have worked with them as an influencer is like the craziest thing ever. I would still think to myself, like, bring that hot, smart, rich energy, bring that hot, smart, rich energy. And so it's been an energy that I've brought to almost everything, but I haven't necessarily identified with one over the other. Like even the rich thing. I was saying this today to someone earlier. Like, I am not a personal finance expert, girly. Like if you want to learn how to invest your money in the stock market, like your rich BFF, Mary Holland Nader is doing something in that now. Like I am a bet on yourself, take big swings, invest in startups, invest in yourself type of gal. And so the rich part, I was investing, my first angel investment check was $2,500. Like it was not $25,000. Now I'm investing $25,000. But instead of buying a Chanel bag 5 years ago, I was like, okay, I'm going to buy a network. I am not going to go and spend $250,000 on an MBA. I am going to get into these deals. I'm going to learn, I'm going to network, and I'm going to leverage this. And so I don't know if people thought I was going around calling myself rich when like I wasn't rich on paper. I was smart with my money to get rich by thinking, how can I buy a network versus having to go and spend $250,000 on an MBA. And that was really how I first started thinking about angel investing. And that is, instead of putting it into the stock market, it's putting it into buying into a company, which was not really done from people that hadn't had a big exit even 5 years ago. It's only starting to become something that people are talking about.
Yes. And I love that you bring so much awareness to like how much power you actually have in setting up your financial success in all of these different ways and not just the typical like finance bro way.
And I would say, listen, to be very clear, I am a capitalist. I think that is something that is really good to call it from the beginning. I am a conscious capitalist. And I think the way I live my life is very rational, very long-term focused, but I buy into capitalism. And I think for me, it's really around figuring out like, okay, I want to be able to make money, have businesses. I want a diversified life. It is being really conscious with my consumption habits so that it doesn't get out of control. And I'm able to really understand why I'm purchasing something. Every single big purchase I sit with, I do not buy anything. One, I don't really buy anything on sale, truthfully, unless it's like the Sephora sale. But like I'm not going down to the row sample sale because I know it's probably not something that I actually want. It's something that I feel pressured to get. And so I think for me, it's really good to think about everything I do is very consciously making a decision. And then I learn from that decision. Like it sounds really nerdy, but I truly do A/B test everything. Like I think about everything in the way that like I would a business decision. And that's why sometimes even with stuff like cost per wear versus return on investment, the way I think about that is like a return on investment is something I am going to make money from. I am not thinking about things as how much does this go down every single time I wear it. So for example, things like Gucci or Celine, those are cost per wears for me. They're not return on investments. Something that I would categorize as an ROI is like an Hermes bag or a Chanel bag because those have amazing resale value. So it's down to that level of even categorizing different designer brands to be like, is this an investment or is this just going to get me a really good cost per wear?
That's really good advice for any sugar babies out there too. My boyfriend and I were talking to one of his friends last night. This is like a total tangent, but basically he was like dating this girl and she was trying to like get, bags and shoes out of him as many 20 somethings do. Like no shame in your game. But my boyfriend was like, God, she really played him so well. And I'm like, no, she didn't. If you really want to be smart about it, you're buying jewelry, maybe. You're buying Hermes, you're buying Chanel.
The resale.
Yeah.
I was like, where are you going with this?
Yeah. Yeah, that was my really convoluted way.
That's amazing.
Advice. If you're going to buy stuff, don't go for
that's
Gucci
like
and YSL. And I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, okay. Spoiler. But like first episode, that whole thing comes into play.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
Yeah. Buy Hermes if you can because that will appreciate, hopefully. You had this inflection point in your career when you were working for Malone. Can you talk about that?
Oh my God, yeah. So I went from building startups on the brand side to working for talent as a way to negotiate equity for different talent, not just posts, but like a bunch of people on the roster. And I had no clue what I was doing. Brands would come to me that were early stage and were like, we want to start working with a talent, and instead of cash, because we're early, we want to offer equity. And I literally called my sister, my now business partner, who was the head of finance at like a multi-$100 million brand. I was like, I am being asked to evaluate if this is an equity deal we should look at, if it's going to equate to what Bud Light or a different type of company would pay a celebrity today. No clue what I was doing. And from that, this was 5 years ago, almost 6, I started realizing the power in ownership and actually being able to see something early, ride with it for a period of 5 to 10 years, and then be able to have so much more money than a brand partner could ever offer you. And when you are working for some of the largest talent in the world, you get amazing deal flow, which is essentially how you get in on all of these deals. And I was like, okay, if I'm seeing this for the talent, I bet you that I can start to offer my skills as a way to actually negotiate equity. I don't have money to give yet, but I'm going to offer advice and see if I'll be paid in equity. And I started going to companies that I was really passionate about and really believed in. And through my network that I had built, been like, can I offer you brand marketing strategy in exchange for equity? And over time, everything in life, like the secret is compounding growth. So like if I had 0.5% equity in this brand and I got another 0.25% equity in this brand and then another 0.5% equity, all of a sudden you start to have real ownership in different companies. And when you're building a portfolio, you really want diversification. You don't want, if you only have $10,000 to invest, do not put that all into one thing, because 9 out of 10 startups will fail. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to put all my eggs in a basket, which is essentially what employees do when they go and get ESOP. Like they're working for one company, they have equity that they're negotiating, and every single thing that they do is tied to that company. So if that company fails, then you're kind of starting over again. So I just started really understanding the power of ownership and the power of building something outside of my 9 to 5. And it was never competitive. It was like, I just need to start like really doing things that inspire me and are different than what I'm doing 9 to 5, but also hedge my bet a little bit. And then I just started growing from there.
You heard about like Alix, Earle getting equity in the Poppi deal. Do you think that this is something that you're going to see bigger creators doing moving forward? I heard that and I was like, that is so smart.
So smart.
Yeah.
And okay, to play a little devil's advocate, and I don't know the details of that deal, but that was a really late stage deal when it came to Alix.
Yeah, I wondered how much she would have
exactly. So it's
that,
like, again, perception, reality. Sometimes I invest for the perception of it, and sometimes I invest because it's actually a really good investment, and I very rarely talk about it, and it's boring, and it's infrastructure, and it's like, that is a bet that I'm making for a completely different reason than building the network. Like, there's such different motivations for people. So with that deal specifically, it's really hard to say how good of a deal that really was, because I don't know the valuation that she invested at, right? And depending on, investing for me is all about risk and reward. So is the risk of putting this money up worth the reward? And if it is a very early stage company, you have to think about that money being locked up, AKA you cannot touch it until there's a material acquisition or exit, or it goes under. So it's basically bye-bye to the money for 5 to 10 years, right? With that one, Alix is looking at a very short runway of like risk to reward, right? So she's probably on the inside, you get a lot more details. She's able to evaluate the opportunity of like, okay, there's rumors of something, a material acquisition happening in the next 1 to 2 years. Definitely smart to take equity, even if the reward isn't a 10x, which is what most investors are looking for. She probably saw, I would assume, and I know nothing about this deal, but like a 2 to a 4x, I would assume she saw as a return on her investment. Mm-hmm. But to answer your initial question, yes, we are about to see such an inflection point of creators that understand this, have incredibly smart teams behind them that have experience in investment banking, venture capital, corporate finance, and are able to understand which deals they should be investing their time into. Anyone can invest their time. And it's cool because you can learn from celebrities. If you have a skill set right now, if you are an expert at digital marketing, go and find companies that you would normally want to go work at and negotiate equity for yourself. The same way that Alix Earle uses her competitive advantage, which is her distribution and her relatability and her conversion ability, to be able to go and negotiate deals. But it actually keeps me up at night because I think in my head, how can I own the conversation of investing? Because like this is something that I've been doing with distribution, both on the talent side and for myself now. And I think it is only about to just be a waterfall of people. Like I just saw Peyton Sarton do one and she's like, you inspired me to do this. And I'm like, this is going to become how most creators build generational wealth.
I'm thinking of like Cass D'Amico too with ShopMy. And
Exactly.
I think she was early. She's like an advisor, and I know that she had equity in it. And I think their valuation is what, like 1.5 billion now?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that a lot of people, as the creator economy is evolving, people are figuring out that like you can really get wealthy. Like, yeah, you can make quick transactional money like for the last 5-10 years, but now it's completely changing.
And it's a mutually beneficial partnership with the brand, right? Like you are an owner. If you don't know anything about venture capital, equity, what you have to remember is like equity is really just ownership in something. You are literally like technically a founder, not like you're a founder, but you are an owner of that company, a very small piece of it. And so you have a mutually beneficial relationship as a brand when you have creators that are invested in your long-term success. It's not as much nickel and diming down your deliverables of like, but you paid me $20K for X amount of stories and posts, because you're like, if I work harder, if everyone works harder here, the valuation of the company is going to be a better outcome for everyone that's involved, AKA everyone will have a better outcome.
You definitely inspire me to.
Now you're like, I want to go invest.
Well, yeah. I mean, especially like for me, I've been doing it since 2016, since 2018 full time. And, you know, there is a certain level of burnout that comes with just the back and forth of the brand deals and the kind of deals that are being put together. And my team and I have been really firm in the last like 2 years of coming back and, you know, saying no to essentially whatever the brands propose, because it's like the 2018 model, you know, of this many stories, this many posts, say this, don't say this, and then we give you this flat rate, you know, and it's just like, it's not worth my time anymore. And I love what you're saying about like, it's mutually beneficial. It's mutually motivating.
Totally. And it's more creative. Like you can come up with different things. And because it's not measuring it on a CPM basis anymore, it's actually, they will give you more creative freedom to do what they think will work best with your audience, which now being on all three sides, like investor, founder, and creator, I still do not understand the brands that are like, this is the exact script. I'm like, you aren't going to sell anything. So unless your goal is brand awareness, this is not going to work for you.
We talk about aging a lot, but something that a lot of people don't know is that we technically have 2 ages. We have our actual age, and then we have our internal biological age. I kind of always thought they were the same, but apparently they're not. And according to a new study, I've probably been lowering my biological age without even realizing it, hopefully. So here is the thing, because so many of us eat ultra processed foods and not nearly enough fruits and veggies, a lot of Americans are actually 10 plus years older on the inside than their real age, which is kind of terrifying. So we are basically walking around like ticking time bombs, but a major university study found something really interesting. Participants were able to slow their aging just by drinking Field of Greens. That is all they did. They didn't overhaul their diet. They didn't start some crazy workout routine. They just added Field of Greens. And honestly, as somebody who actually takes this part matters to me. So every single fruit and vegetable in Field of Greens is doctor selected for specific health benefits. So supporting cell health, your heart, lungs, kidneys, metabolism, even healthy weight. It's not a random greens powder. It's really intentionally formulated. So I love knowing that something this simple can support healthy aging. And I really encourage you to try it. You can swap the untested green drinks or the I'll start eating better next week plan for Field of Greens while there is still time to make an impact. You can check out the university study yourself and you'll get 20% off when you use my code WELL at fieldofgreens.com. Again, that's fieldofgreens.com, code WELL. If you are an avid listener of my podcast or if you follow me on social media, then you know that I love red light therapy, especially for my face and my chest. I've been using the Bon Charge face and chest mask for so long, I can't even remember how. And when it comes to red light, I think there's a lot of misconception around it. I actually did an episode a few weeks ago with Andy and Katie Mant. I definitely recommend checking it out if you're interested in the benefits of red light therapy. It's so informative, but basically red light can help with so many things that we don't even necessarily think about. So of course, wrinkles and fine lines, but it can also help with things like jaw tension, eczema, migraines, acne, scar tissue, wound healing, razor burn, literally everything we deal with as adults. It's also incredibly calming, which I personally need more of. So how I use the Bond Charge mask is I put it on for about 10 minutes every morning while I am meditating. It's so easy. You don't have to lay down or dedicate a whole routine to it. And I love that this one has near infrared and red light, which actually boosts collagen and elastin production. It's really lightweight. It doesn't get hot, which I love because other masks can be a little bit heavy or uncomfortable or just kind of mid. And honestly, that's the biggest thing. I've tried other brands and nothing really compares to Bond Charge. It's the quality, the comfort, the wavelengths, the irradiance. It's just superior. I've noticed that my skin tone has been so much more even. My fine lines look softer and I just have that glowy, healthy look. So right now, Bond Charge is having the holiday sale, which means you can save 25% off. Just go to bondcharge.com. The 25% off will be automatically applied at checkout and the sale ends December 31st. So definitely don't miss this. It is the best time to try Bond Charge and stock up on your favorites. Running a business on a clunky old phone system is like competing with one hand tied behind your back. And every time you miss a call, that is money left on the table, which, as we are discussing in this episode, is unacceptable. So Quo, formerly OpenPhone, is the modern alternative built to help you work smarter, build stronger relationships, and never miss an opportunity, because that's what your business and your customers deserve. So Quo is the #1 business phone system built for 2025, not 1995. Forget juggling phones or using a landline. Quo works right from an app on your phone or computer. Your whole team can share one number and collaborate on calls and texts, basically like a shared inbox, which means faster responses and happier customers. And the best part is Quo is not just a phone system, it is a smart system. It has built-in AI call logs, it writes summaries, and even sets up next steps. And if you can't answer the phone, Quo's AI agent can. So think qualifying leads, routing calls to the right person, and making sure no customers ever left hanging. Even after hours, Quo has got your back. And that is why over 90,000 businesses are already running on Quo. From solo operators to growing teams, Quo helps businesses stay connected and look professional. And they are offering my listeners 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/blonde. That's QUO.com/blonde. You can even keep your existing number for free. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers.
It is crazy to me how many brands are still stuck on that and have not evolved and are not adaptable at all whatsoever. Like, they're investing a lot of their money in these creators to convert, and you know, we know our audience better than they know. And so hopefully brands will catch up. It doesn't make sense to me, the ones that are like so stuck in their ways. I'm like, you cannot be getting a return on this. Like,
no,
it's crazy. I wanted to ask you quickly, because you were really able to pivot from your career where you felt like you were completely stuck and you were having to walk out your door and essentially put on a different facade. And you're clearly like in your element right now. You've honed in on your passion. You have such purpose, which is obviously part of the reason why, you know, HSR is so successful, because you're so clear in your vision and your execution of that, and you're passionate. And, you know, you and any other entrepreneur would say, like, if you're not passionate about what you're doing, you can't do it. It's not sustainable. So for people listening who do feel like they're in that stuck place, and they either know what they're passionate about, but they don't know how to execute it, or they don't even know what their passion is, do you have any advice for them?
I think if I could do everything over again, it would be, I did it this way, but I think for me to tell someone right now who feels like that, it is to get super clear on who you are as a person. I think it is so easy to right now see something working for someone. And my sister and I use this analogy a lot because I'm very extroverted, I love raising money. Like, I love fundraising. I love asking people for money. I love being able to sell a story. That is my sister's worst nightmare. And she is a chartered accountant. She was in corporate finance for a decade-long career. She was the head of finance managing 25 people. So you would think that she loves money, loves fundraising, all those things, right? we had tried to start businesses in the past before, and we always ended up getting into big fights because we were very unclear about like who each other were and what our skill sets were, because society tells you certain things. We make patterns. There's recognitions of like, oh, if you're good at math, you must be good at money. You should go into wealth management or fundraising or those things. But actually, I would say being a salesperson and being good at talking to people and selling a vision and hiring people is a very fit person for a CEO role. So the first thing is like, you need to know what you are naturally good at. And instead of looking at people and seeing all of the headlines, there's a lot of really successful people who also have a lot of backseat roles in organizations that like aren't as glamorized, but have incredible lives, incredibly successful fortunes, and don't necessarily have the same headline as like, let's say Stephen Bartlett, who just raised that I just talked about, right? Like everyone looks at that and is like, I'm going to become a creator. But you have to be so clear of like, is that something that you are actually going to enjoy? What is your motivation for that? And so I think the best things that I solve for, there's a really simple analogy. You have a headache. Are you going to reach for an Advil or are you going to reach for a supplement? Actually, wrong person asked that too, because you might reach for a supplement.
No, I go to Advil.
But you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
There's painkillers and then there's vitamin pills. And in every business, the highest chance you have of success, you are building a painkiller, something that a consumer will do nothing to get in their way to stop that problem. So if you're not building for an actual problem, you can't even decide like if you're even building a vitamin pill or you're building a painkiller. You really want to try to hone in on a problem, know who you are, and then build a solution that's going to solve a real problem. I think that I see that even with creators. People want to be a creator because they want to make a lot of money. They want to get in, they don't want to have to, they want to get PR packages. To your point, you will burn out so fast. It will come off across as inauthentic. And even for me right now, I'm at a really interesting point where we're like finally reaching mass scale. And like, I am not for a lot of people. And I'm okay with that. And I can handle the haters because I am so clear on the consumer that I am talking to. It is me in my 20s, in my 30s. And I'm sure as I go into my 40s, like that feeling of feeling like I can do something with my life. I have purpose. I am powerful. I want to bring my authentic self to the forefront. I am solving for that person. So the haters don't distract me. But if you're just trying to be a creator, as soon as you get that first Reddit thread or that first hate message, like you are going to be out of there. So I think it's the first thing in anything in life is like, if you feel stuck, you have to ask yourself why, and then just solve from there.
I remember when you made a TikTok video like months ago about that very thing, and you were like, I am not for everybody. Like, I'm very polarizing. And I think I probably commented because I could relate a lot to that. But I remember when I first got my first Reddit thread, negative Reddit thread, which I've never actually looked at, but I know it exists.
Yeah. You're better than
Actually,
me.
I looked once when I was like separated from my ex, and the things that people were saying, the theories, I was like, this is actually insane. And I was like, I can never look at this again. But I was like, oh, this is a good thing because this is a scale thing that comes with scale. If you don't have that, you're not reaching enough people. And so I take it as like a good sign at this point.
Totally. It is hard for sure, as anything is hard. Like life is hard. And I always say, pick your hard. Like if you want to live a certain life, it is not going to be easy. It is going to be hard. There's challenges, even with dating, even for myself, like an alpha male. I am not used to dating an alpha male because I've always walked all over people in relationships. That adjustment was hard, but I would rather pick this hard than I would another hard. So life is hard, pick your hard.
That's a great pivot to the relationship stuff. I wanted to focus on the other stuff first because I mean, you're so impressive. And like, I really believe in what you're doing. And obviously you do too. And it's so inspiring. And I know that like so many women are going to listen to this and feel really motivated and inspired. So I didn't want to make it all about the men.
Thank you.
However,
apparently Reddit thinks I make my husband my entire personality. So here we go.
Oh my God. I mean, whatever. It's like, I can't even. Somebody sent me a Reddit thing about me today and I was like, I just can't.
And by the way, I think that this is something that is important to talk about and why I talk about it, just for everyone to know. My worst fear was building this amazing company with as much money as I wanted and not having anyone to share it with. Like that was actually, when I thought about a nightmare, that was it. It was also a nightmare to be with the wrong person and feel like I was sacrificing things. And so I think my story of like calling off an engagement, leaving, finding someone who actually empowers my dreams and makes me feel like anything is possible is a story that women want and deserve to hear, because all the time I hear dating is so horrible, men are so terrible, I can't find anyone. And so I do share a lot about my relationship because it's a personal experience that I have. And it's something that I feel deserves airtime, because I don't want women to think, oh, if you are going to be successful or if you're going to be a businesswoman, you can't have a relationship. I think you can have it all.
Yeah. And you've said about your now husband that, you know, he sees your light and he makes it brighter. Whereas in your prior relationship that you called off the engagement, you felt like your light was being dimmed, right?
Totally.
So we don't have to get into like the whole story of it, but something that I think resonates with so much of my audience is how to know when you're in that wrong relationship. When is it time to leave versus when is it time to work on things? When I was really open about my divorce with my ex, like, it was difficult, and it sounds like it was kind of similar to what you were going through, because he's not a bad person. And, you know, it wasn't like one specific thing happened where it was black and white, like there was no cheating. And that would have been so much easier for me than to have to grapple with this decision of like, okay, this is a really great person. It came with the lifestyle, which I know that was something that you had with your ex as well. Meaning that it was a very comfortable life, right? Like I knew what life would look like, and I knew that I was like secure in a lot of ways. And so it was this really gray area, and it was like I had to do the big girl thing, which I had never done before, which was so hard, which was like remove myself from that situation, which was the most terrifying thing, because it's like, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? Like, you went through it, so you know. So when you were going through that, what was the moment that you realized it's not the relationship for me?
I think honestly our stories are so similar, and I remember, actually I never got to say this at the beginning, but when you were going through it too and I was too, I was so happy you were talking about it, because I was like, oh my God, I'm not alone. So I honestly echoed the same thing. And I think that is the really interesting thing too, just another side note, like people rallied around me when I was at the lowest of lows, where like I didn't know where I was going to live. I had all of my stuff in storage. Like I really felt so lost, and it was like such a rally around. And it's been interesting to see like now the comments of like, okay, now this is like annoying. And it's like, but aren't you happy to see women go from literally like not knowing where they're going to live and all of their stuff being in storage and feeling like a total failure to like having an amazing, abundantly filled life? Like, where is the excitement for that? We are so drawn to people's weaknesses and to people's lows. And I really want to start to just feel like people are there to celebrate the wins too, because otherwise, like, what is the point of all of this? You know, I think for me, going back into that headspace, now being with my husband, not everything is easy with my husband, but it feels easy. It's a very fine line between it not being easy, but feeling easy. Even when we're arguing, it feels easy. And I just remember everything with my past relationship feeling so hard. Like it felt impossible. I was like, I don't know how we are ever going to get through this or see eye to eye. And even with my current partner, my husband, I feel like that TikTok trend when it's like my current husband to their face, you know, thing. But like even with my husband, who is the most supportive person, even when we are arguing, somehow it just feels like there's going to be a resolve, because both of us are fighting to the problem. We're not fighting each other. Mm-hmm. And I think I genuinely felt like I wasn't living a fulfilling, full life with my ex. I constantly doubted myself. I constantly felt... So it's interesting now, because my attachment style, I would say, is secure, but it leans actually a little bit more anxious now. Whereas like my attachment style in previous relationships is extremely avoidant, like extremely avoidant. And I would actually say that can be toxic for my ex the same way he could be toxic for me. Because if he was an anxious person and I was an avoidant, that's a recipe for a really bad dynamic. Whereas with my current husband, who is so secure, I am secure. And so I think it's also about the fit, right? It's about identifying, do I like myself with this person? And that was ultimately when we were dating, my husband and I write in my journal every day. My questions for myself was like, literally, do I like myself around this person every single day? Did I finish this day liking this version of myself? What qualities of mine came out? What skill sets did I explore about myself? What did I learn new today? It was never about him. When I read that journal now, when we were first dating, it was never about him. It was always about me. And I think that stemmed from when I was in my last relationship. I feel so sad for this girl. I read those journal entries and it's like, I feel so trapped. I feel so upset. I feel like I'm not understood. I feel like I can't be myself. I feel like I'm never going to be able to find a way to make this work. Also about myself. So that's why when I started dating again, I was like, how can I write journal entries that reflect the mirror of what I actually want this little girl to be writing in her journal? So when I was dating my partner, it was always about me. It was never about him.
And I'm sure that creates a very magnetic energy as well. And I can relate to that. So, I mean, to a T, it was like with my ex, and I love him and we're good and all of that. He's an amazing person. But when it's not the right fit, everything is so hard. Every conversation was so hard. We just were never like, I know that you guys went to therapy and we were in therapy, and it was like, oh my God. And I thought, okay, well, maybe relationships are work. Like you hear that,
exactly.
trope all the time. And, conversely with my current boyfriend, I couldn't relate more. It's effortless, even when there is conflict, and I think of this hostage negotiator. I can't remember his name.
Chris Vaughn.
Chris Voss.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he would always say, like, if you're negotiating, whether it's with a business partner, a partner, whoever it is, a hostage, the adversary is not the other person. The adversary is the issue that you're negotiating on. And I remember with my ex, I always felt like I was the adversary and I couldn't understand why. And I look back on my old journals too. Usually when I'm on flights, I like go through and I like to read and, see how far I've come. And now it's like a true partnership, it's like, and I know that you've said with your husband, like you never have felt like this before. And that's how I felt too. I was like, oh, this is what a real partnership is. Like we're on the same team, like always.
For sure. And I think that's, again, why it's so important for people like you and I who have been through different iterations to talk about it, and why I will never stop talking about it, because I do think that it is something that is important for women to understand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that so many people, like, circumstances are different. People have kids, people have financial struggles. It's not always easy for them to leave. But I mean, I look back and I think that was one of the most confidence inducing things that I've ever done in my life.
Confidence.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it was like one of the scariest things I think I ever did, aside from like getting sober, was walking away from that relationship.
Yeah.
And the person that I met on the other side, I was like, oh, I can do anything.
Yeah.
If I could do that, I can do anything.
Yeah. And then your worth in other relationships. And I think for me, I didn't know my worth fully. I always had high self-worth, but I didn't understand what I was bringing to things, especially when you have dated someone who has been more successful and is older. Like, you don't even understand what you add to the relationship. And I think that power dynamic, if I hadn't have gone through what I had been through, even with my husband now, like, our power dynamic would have been completely altered, because I went through so much self-work and self-worth confidence boosting that I knew what I was bringing. I was never intimidated to be myself. And like, I also didn't feel like I had to pretend to be someone else that I wasn't. And so I think that really helped me ultimately find the right partner.
You said something interesting. I'm just curious. You said that you used to be avoidant. Now you're secure in a relationship, but you lean a little bit anxious. Why do you think that is?
So I'm an anxious person.
Yeah,
like,
me too.
in general, I get anxiety about every single thing. And the thing that I get anxiety about is things I care about. And I actually watched this really interesting clip on Diary of a CEO where it was someone talking about, if you could hire someone who was anxious or not anxious, who would you hire? He would hire the anxious person, because that is a symbol of being, you care about something. And I think for me, not that I didn't care about previous relationships, but I was so focused on myself. And I was really selfish in previous relationships. I didn't find someone that I wanted to sacrifice for. So I was never anxious about my relationship. And I don't know if that means I didn't care, because I do think I cared about the person. But with my current relationship, it's the same level of anxiety that I have towards HSR, to my friends. Like, even my friends, I have anxiety over. I'm like, if they don't text me back or it's been a few weeks, I sometimes even think like, oh my God, like, are they mad at me? And I just made this really interesting video that a few days ago that was like, I prioritize low expectation friendships over low effort friendships. And there's a huge difference. It's like, low expectations are safe and secure. They don't need you to text them back right away. They're not passive aggressively being like, hello, question mark. Like, you've been posting on Instagram. Well, it's my job. The safe and secure relationships you have with your friends are the ones where like you can go and live and build your best life, and you show up for each other, you support each other, you're there for each other. They know that, you know that, you're there when you need to be, but it's not that passive aggressive conversation. So that same level of anxiety I even have over friendships, I just now have in my relationship. I wouldn't say it's like an anxious attachment. It's more I care so deeply about my relationship. I'm so secure with it. But I would say it's the same level of anxiety I have with my job, my career, my friends, my health even. Like everything I care about has an element of anxiety to it. And that's a good thing.
I identify with that so much. That's why I was curious.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, I feel similar. Not in like an anxious about him or the relationship, but just that deep.
And you know, it's so good that you're like, oh my God, it's like with HSR. And I hope that stays forever, because I've watched people go through the cycle where they get success. They're a completely different person. Their ego gets inflated. And by the way, that's when things fall. Like the story of BlackBerry. He was not at all concerned about the iPhone, and he is obliterated now. And it was that ego that was like, things won't ever grow away from me. And then you stop innovating, you stop evolving. And I think the same thing is true. Like I never want to get on that side of the pattern where I stop caring about things that I'm excited about because we've had success or we have a great relationship. I think a level of anxiety, people don't talk about that enough as a good thing. It means you care. It means you are going to develop and you're going to put resources into something to continue to develop it.
I love that reframe as an anxious person. But I can relate. It's like, yeah, I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with the things that I care about. And sometimes the excitement feels like anxiety as well.
And it's just figuring out which one is it.
Yeah, exactly.
Want to know the biggest health secret that not a lot of people are talking about? Everything, and I mean everything, starts in your gut. But every day, your gut is fighting a silent war against processed foods, work stress, pesticides in your food, and even toxins in the air you breathe. And when your gut is in trouble, your whole body feels it. And this is where it gets crazy. Most people are spending money on probiotics that don't even work, because up to 99% of traditional brands die in your stomach acid before they even reach your gut. So you may as well flush them down the drain. And this is what makes Just Thrive spore-based probiotic completely different. It's the only probiotic clinically proven to arrive 100% alive in your gut. And it does something no other probiotic can. It turns your gut into an antioxidant factory, creating protective compounds exactly where you need them most. And for you, that means better digestion, better immunity, more energy, and even easy weight management. It comes in a capsule or a berry flavored gummy, so there's an option for everyone. Plus, it's backed by an industry-leading guarantee. So if you're ready to transform your health in 2025 or 2026, try Just Thrive probiotic. You can visit justthrivehealth.com and save 20% on your first 90-day bottle of Just Thrive probiotic with the promo code WELL. And don't forget to check out their other amazing clinically proven products too, like my favorite, the digestive bitters. They help so much with digestion. They also have focus and memory, gluten away, and more. Justthrivehealth.com, promo code WELL. By now, you guys probably know that I have been a fan of Mellow Magnesium from Ned for so many years. In fact, I kind of fell off from taking it the last month or so. And then the last 3 or 4 nights I've been taking it, and the difference in my sleep and how I feel the next day is so massive. I forgot how impactful it is when it comes to helping me drift into that deep sleep, help with muscle recovery from workouts, and just feel calm. And Ned is now part of Foria. So Ned has always been committed to bringing you the highest quality plant-based remedies for sleep, stress, and whole body healing. And now that they have joined forces with Foria, there are even more ways to achieve your happiest, healthiest lifestyle. So like Ned, Foria creates plant-based, all-natural formulas that keep Mother Earth in mind every step of the way. They make amazing, all-natural, organic formulas for your most intimate needs. Foria has a serious cult following with hundreds of thousands of people who have had their sex lives transformed through using their products. And their products help couples deepen their connection and fully experience their sexual pleasure, from enhancing connection to more sexual comfort and more. So for you, this means the same high quality NED formulas you know and love, perhaps with an improvement or two based on Foria's 12 years of experience in plant-based wellness and a chance to easily explore Foria's award-winning formulas as well. So you can still purchase your NED favorites on their site like you always have, or you can purchase Mellow on ForiaWellness.com. And if you would like to try Foria's pleasure and intimacy formulas, Foria is offering a special deal for my listeners. You can get 20% off your first order by visiting ForiaWellness.com/blonde or use the code blonde at checkout. That's ForiaWellness.com/blonde for 20% off your first order. I want to talk about something that has completely shifted the way that I think about aging in a good way. So you guys know that I'm all about aging well, aging slowly where possible, and feeling younger than the number on my driver's license. And the more that I've learned, the more I've realized aging really starts at the cellular level. So when I heard about C15 from Fatty 15 a couple years ago, I was instantly intrigued. C15 is actually the first essential fatty acid discovered in over 90 years, which is wild. It is a legit longevity enhancing nutrient that helps strengthen our cells and slow biological aging, and it's backed by over 100 studies. So when your cells don't have enough C15, they become weak and fragile, and that is when aging accelerates. So when our cells age, our bodies age, and this led researchers to discover something called cellular fragility syndrome, which is basically a new nutritional deficiency caused by not having enough C15. So with Fatty 15, it actually helps repair age-related cell damage. It protects cells from future breakdown and activates pathways that support sleep, mood, metabolism, and natural repair processes. It helps your body function the way that it is supposed to. And Fatty 15 even has 3 times more cellular benefits than omega-3. It's vegan, it's pure C15. There's no flavors, no fillers, no preservatives, just the good stuff. And right now you can get an additional 15% off their 90-day subscription starter kit by going to fatty15.com/well and using the code WELL at checkout.
I'll do some closing questions
Okay.
that I'm curious about. What is the moment that you felt most her?
What does her mean?
Like when you're just like, I am her.
Okay, I just signed a really big deal that I can't talk about, but I just signed it last week, and my sister was beside me. My husband came to the signing dinner, and I was just sitting at the table, and I was like, whoa, like I have built my dream life. And it actually, like, I am never one that can't have words. I leave the dinner, my husband's driving, my sister's in the back seat, and we're like, holy shit, they're talking, and I couldn't speak. I was like, I just did the thing. Like, I have built myself into a life that I'm so proud of and so excited about. And I did it with my family and my partner, and it wasn't choosing one over the other. It was the most hot, smart, rich signing that I feel like was a moment I just sat back and was like, yeah, I'm her.
That's amazing. I heard you talking about this on your podcast, so I can't wait to find out what it is. But this is the one when your sister was like, you shouldn't be the one, or your husband was like, you shouldn't be the one negotiating. And you were like, actually, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I love that power move.
I think, obviously context matters. He was more saying it in the way where he was like, you need to make sure that if things go south, which in 99% of deals like this could have happened, that you aren't the one on the front lines. But I just had a gut instinct. And I think that was the moment where I was like, I'm going to do this. And it worked out. But 99% of the time it wouldn't have worked out. And he was like framing for the 99% of the times that it wouldn't have worked out.
He's got your back.
Oh, fully. He is, like I said, legitimately the most supportive person, where I feel like sometimes his life is ages are.
Yeah. I love that. Well, he's the chairman, right?
He's the chairman now, yes. I love you did your research.
Yeah. Okay, what's your biggest money mistake?
Okay, let me think about that one. I guess it's a good thing like nothing comes to my head
right
away.
You're not
I mean, I gotta say this truthfully, there hasn't been a huge decision that I've made that I've been like, oh my God, I have made a crazy, horrible decision. I will tell you, there was one point in time based on breakups and moving cross country and like having committed to things that I was paying 3 different payments for housing at the same time. I was paying half of a rent with a former boyfriend in LA. I was paying my mortgage in Toronto. And then when I had moved out into a new place in LA, this was like when I first moved here 8 years ago, I was paying another lease. And so like I was carrying 3 costs. And I think going back to that mindset of like, why I had just solved for short-term immediacy when I knew it wasn't the right thing. And so obviously paying 3 different rents at one time is like crazy. So that was not necessarily a mistake that I made, but it was just not being conscious in like my long-term future. And I wish I could go back and not have that happen to me.
I've been in that situation too. What is one luxury you will never give up?
My health, like investing in my health. I think it is so important. I've been having a lot of digestive unexplained problems right now. And so taking my foot off the gas of discovering what is actually going on, I wish I had just taken more time, and I am taking more time now, but life gets busy, business gets busy. And so sometimes your health takes a backseat. And I'm at the point now where I would actually say I'm like the least strong I've ever been. I honestly sometimes struggle to like open a door because I haven't lifted heavy weights recently. And I think my health, I need to like reprioritize even in terms of the investment I put into it and really make sure that is at the forefront, because we only have one body. And when that is gone, like it doesn't matter how smart you are, how much money you have, like you don't have something that can take you from point A to point B. That is something I will continue to spend money on.
I love the honesty.
Yeah.
And it's like they say, cliche, health is the ultimate wealth.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. What is the most underrated smart move you've ever made?
I think when I first started getting those offers to exchange equity for big talent service deliverables, I noticed something. I didn't just do my job. I was like, this feels different. This feels like a change. I'm going to get really curious about this. I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm going to try to learn as much as I can from experts. But I knew that things were shifting away from big brand dollars towards more of these equity deals. And I wouldn't be sitting in this place if I hadn't taken that little tidbit of like, something's here, started getting curious about it, and then started doing it for myself.
Hot tip for instant confidence.
Meditate for a minute.
I love that answer. Looking at Tessa, she knows.
I am such an anxious person. Like I start every single meeting and I'm just like heart bounding, like wanting, like my sister has to tell me on the side, you need to stop talking so passionately because people think you're like angry. And so now every single time I need to either calm down or get confident, I literally will breathe on a phone call or in a big meeting. Like before the signing, I just breathe for the minute.
If you do like traditional meditation, or if you're interested at all,
yeah.
I'm a little bit of an evangelist about this app that I'm doing with Sam Harris.
Okay, what's it
Waking
called?
Up.
Oh, I haven't heard of it.
My ex told me about it because actually I saw him maybe 6 months ago and I was like, what's happening? I'm like, you're a lot lighter. You know, he has a very stressful life and carries a lot of that weight on his shoulders, I think. And he has a certain demeanor about him usually. And he was just like,
chilling.
Yeah. And I was like, what are you doing? And he was like, oh, I'm doing this app, Waking Up. And he and I did transcendental meditation for years. He's been like a seeker spiritually. And so he's tried all different kinds of meditation. And he was like, this is the one that like stuck. It's 10 minutes.
And it's called Waking
Up. I'll send it to you if you want. It's like mind blowing.
I need that.
Yeah.
I would love that.
And it's not in his whole thing is he's like, people think that you meditate to like be calmer, to be happier, and that can absolutely be like a byproduct of meditation, but it's more to kind of recognize like consciousness and what even consciousness is and detach yourself from who you think you are and to recognize the thoughts that then structure your perception of your life. But it's so simple.
I even feel like another big thing for me is gratitude, like truly feeling like lucky for the day and lucky to be able to do these things and actually putting that into practice. Like I do these HSR love notes every single day. I put them on my story now because I just felt like I wanted to share what I was grateful for. And it could be something so simple, but like even just practicing gratitude is such a great way to ground yourself in like what reality is. Like I always say this to my sister who has a young child. She's traveling a lot for work. Work is really picking up. She's constantly having to be away now. And I'm like, but wouldn't you rather this than like being in corporate finance at a startup where you're underappreciated, underpaid? Like, yes, you work at a cool brand, but like you're not actually changing lives. Whereas we get messages from women of like leaving the bad relationship, raising their first seed round, and starting their angel investing journey. And it's like those are really impactful moments that we get to see and sit on and be like, so grateful for this opportunity to do this versus it's so hard to be away from my son. Like we constantly talk about that with each other.
Yeah. And those are the moments where you remember your why, because, you know, when you're in it and creating content day in, day out and putting it out there for the world and investing and building your brand and all of that, like it can start to feel, you can have moments, right, where you're like, where's this going? What am I doing? And then you get that message and you're like, oh yeah. And it like brings you back to your purpose and to reality. Yeah. And gratitude is so helpful. Okay. Last one, rich mindset quote that you live by.
Compounding interest. It's not even a quote, but just like if you take anything away from this episode, everything in life compounds, whether it's a skill, whether it's reading one book every single day, whether it's making like one smart investing decision a week or a month, like everything in your life will get better when you start compounding your growth. I think it is so underrated and it's not talked about enough as it relates to both your financials and also just your life in general.
Your habits and all of that. Yeah, I love that. Smartest investment that you've ever made doesn't have to be financial.
So investments are something that make me money, right? So there's a bunch of things I could take this, but I would say when I sold my house in Toronto and moved to LA, I got an E2 visa, which was putting like $150,000 into the US economy, into like an actual business. It couldn't be like into investments. It was like into my business. So it was like hiring people, website development, brand strategy, whatever. And at the time, it was the scariest thing I've ever done because I pretty much had $150,000 in my savings account. Like that was everything. And to go from a really secure asset like real estate to like a really unknown thing where I was kind of betting on myself. I didn't even really know what the company was other than starting to consult and do SPVs at the time. It was definitely not hot, smart, rich even back then, but I just knew like the American dream was the place that I wanted to go and build a business. And if I was going to be able to take risks, it was going to be here. And so putting all of that money into a company to get an E2 visa to legally be able to stay and work here was the scariest decision I've ever made, but it has paid off in spades of just being here, living the life that I am, the company that I've built, the husband that I found, the friendships that I have. Like that is the one really pivotal decision in my life where I think back, if I had been scared to make that, I would not be anywhere close to where I am today in any capacity of my life. And so to anyone that's like considering a big move like that, I can't say whether 100% it's going to work out or not, but it's so worth the risk to try. And even if you fail, that's part of your story. I always tell this to people, like everyone wants a podcast or a story. And I'm like, you have to fail to have a story. Otherwise, what are you going to talk about?
Yeah.
So even in those moments where things are bad, even if you've risked everything and it doesn't work out, part of your story, keep going. And so I think it's just like, I think back to that time I wired the money and I went up and I presented my case to the immigration embassy in Canada for the US. And that was the single best handed decision I've ever made in my life.
That's amazing. That's a huge bet on yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I heard you say something that I loved. You were like, I've always known that I'm special. And like everybody should believe that they're special. If you don't believe that you're special, you're not going to be successful. And I think that people bristle when people make, comments about that, but it's like you should be your biggest cheerleader. You should bet on yourself like that because you're going to be the first one to do it before anybody else does.
Totally.
And you're stuck with you. Like you can have an amazing husband, you can have amazing coworkers, partners, whatever it is, but like you come first and foremost. And I would say, just as an outsider, another investment that you made was leaving that last relationship and taking that time to heal, which we didn't really talk about, but you really took that time for yourself. You didn't jump into anything else. You weren't feeding your ego. I heard you say, like, you took that time to get to know yourself. And then when you started dating your husband and dating other people before you met him, exactly what you said, like you were focusing on yourself. How does this make me feel? Like you invested that into yourself as well. And I think that that's really inspiring for people to hear.
You're so sweet. Thank you for saying that.
So you're amazing. Tell everybody where they can find you and where they can get hot, smart, rich.
Okay. Well, we drop episodes every single Wednesday. We have a newsletter that's definitely the more businessy, girly chat on Sundays. Those are both just at Hot, Smart, Rich. And then that's on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts. And then for myself, I'm actually going through a name change right now. So I changed my middle name to Sellers, which is my maiden name. Still don't have the Instagram Maggie Sellers Ream, working on it, but it's either Maggie Sellers or Maggie Sellers Ream everywhere else. I'm like,
we'll link it in show notes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I had so much fun.
Me
Such
too.
a fan.
Thank you.